So the next task that I want to tackle is a little bit more ambitious. We're going to need to touch quite a few databases and set up quite a bit of art. I have already figured out how some of this is going to work in my Google spreadsheets. I can drag one over onto the screen so you can see it. So this is, I just have this on Google for when I'm thinking about designing my game. I've written down some of the initial items I expect to exist. There's my currencies. Here's some of the placeables that I'm planning to have. I don't have anything written in that one yet. These are some of my producers that I'm going to build. Here's a list of gatherables, and then I haven't actually done anything with placeable limits yet either. So a lot of these decisions I've already thought about, like I've already named things and stuff, and that speeds it up a little bit when I'm assembling things. But I can't keep this on the screen for you to see, but I am referring to it as I work, so it's back on my other monitor. Because the whole point of this game is coral. So I think it'd be nice if we got some into the game. So these three things are some producer bases. My wild coral producer bases might actually be invisible in a lot of cases. I haven't decided. But for the sake of being able to actually work on this and make some design decisions, I've designed just this circle as a temporary wild coral base. And then I have two different options for a farmed one. Eventually, I plan to let you farm seaweed, so the one on the ground could grow seaweed or coral, and the net is only for coral or maybe like oysters, something like that. So yeah, the first thing we need to do is find a table and set up the producer base, because I can't make my farmed coral without a base. It needs it. So what I want is placeables. So a producer base is a subtype of a placeable. So we've got a whole bunch of them here, but they were mostly, these are all mostly just things from farming that we don't really intend to have. I will leave a couple of them in here. We'll leave the crafting table in here and the medium chest, because they have some different settings on them that I want to be able to keep. So we'll just use the clay pot one as our basic one. Now I'm looking over on my other monitor at my list of placeables and what the first three I want to make are. So they're going to be net plot. This has a unique storage ID column. Don't forget that those need to be actually unique. You can't reuse them. Each number needs to be distinct. There's a very high chance I'm going to change those tags. I'm not sure how I want the tags to work for that yet. These are the tags that are going to be for the limits, I think. Okay, so we got our unique storage IDs. Client and static. And then we need our sand plot. Client and static, and our wild coral node is just a static. Now we need the replicators that it can be used in. So let's get our notepad document back up. I don't think I'm going to let you place it in house entrance placeables. I'm actually probably going to give you sort of some like outdoor growing areas for your house, like yards essentially. But we haven't put those in yet. So for now, we're just going to probably allow this just in main room placeables. And we might as well make the same change to these, to the crafting table and the chest for when we get to them. So everything can just be placed inside the house. Valid place type or tool is just a hand, that's fine. Removal tool is a hammer. should be fine here. If you leave this field empty, then the game assumes that any tool can be used to remove it, but we actually don't want a tool, so I'm going to write a non-existent tool in there. I'm just going to write none, because you can't, I don't want you to be able to remove a wild coral node. Actually, it doesn't even, I don't even need to have this replicator identifier there, I don't think, because it's one we're going to pre-place these nodes ourselves. So then we have place effects. I don't have like a good effect for this. We'll just take this one that exists. We'll de-instance it. Again, we're going to want to change all of this to be more suited to the game that we're making. So for now, it's fine though. We just need an item to work with right now. So looks like I named the other one. So we just made a new template from that. That's right here, and we'll just put that effect in everything. And later this one will probably be like a bit of a slow moving dust cloud and maybe some bubbles and sort of a softer sound because it's being placed underwater. But we'll swap that out later. We'll just throw the same effect in for the removal right now. Probably want a different one later. This is when you put a net plot down. We could just let you sort of have one on your hotbar and then it acts more like a button, and each time you place it you can just put them down infinitely, or we can have it actually subtract one from your total number of those objects, and that's the way that we want it to work. So for this particular item anyway, so we'll put that there. This one a player is not going to place anyway, so it shouldn't matter. So a placement preview is an optional extra template, and the main reason for it is it would only show you like the part of the art, because the art's often separated into two things, a client and a static, and that can look kind of bad depending on the item. So in this case our client looks just fine, right? So we can just make the client. We don't need to make a special preview item. Let's check the other ones here. So our sand plot client also looks fine. We can just use that. Wild coral node, it doesn't, again, we're not going to actually place that one. This is, in general, you're fine to leave this basic placement overlap check trigger. It's just going to be like a little square, and if that square hits something, then it won't let you place the object. If you're placing something like a spit over a campfire where there is no collision in the middle, bottom, center of it, but there is collision somewhere else on the object, then you need to make a custom one of those items. But again, that's not really the case here for what we need to do. So I think we're fine just using the basic check there. Now placement area types, there's another thing that we've been messing with, right? So our types that we have are pavement and floor. Probably not what we're actually going to want to use for this eventually, but for now, just to get things running. These have a grid size in them, but I'm not actually using it. I mean, I'll leave it there, but I can rotate that. It's not really valid with that one. We're not snap rotating or aligning to surfaces or anything. I might actually want align to surface on with some of the coral stuff later, but we won't worry about that yet. A cost lets you could, like, say, make it take compost out of your inventory or money out of your inventory or lore points or something as to put something down. So rather than it just taking an item, it can have a cost as well. But again, we don't really need that for this one. We don't want to destroy on remove. We want to pick it back up, drop in world and on remove. So that one means that when it's, if you hit it with your hammer, then a drop icon for it will show and you can pick it back up. So because these are a player crafted item, they're not like a gathered item or something like that. We just have the drop behavior to solo because we don't want you to put down a net, But then when you hit it with your hammer to pick it up, you and your friend can pick up the net, because then it would be like infinite nets. Now, this was a reference to a buff ID that we're not using right now. We will need some, but we're not using that stuff at the moment. This is just a note column with a reminder for me that the next, or for you, for anyone, that the next rows are only relevant to producer bases, but these are both producer bases, so, or all three of these are. So producer base type. So this type will basically allow, be what it looks for to determine if something can be planted here. Maybe a fragment spot. I don't know, I haven't really decided. We'll just start with allowing it just to plant coral, because that's all we're doing right now anyway. We're not going to worry about initial producers or anything. We don't want to allow expiry, but we do want just a normal build rate for now. Actually, I think we are going to allow expiry. So plant coral, or maybe I should say place coral fragments here. We'll allow the producer to be removed, and that's it. So the rest of these sections are just for crafting tables, and then these ones are just for chests. So we're done for our bases, or our placeables. So I'm just going to delete some of the random stuff I dragged into the scene here that I don't need. And this video is already getting a little long, but I think we can do one more thing before we pick a new, before we start the next video. So let me... The other thing that I think I want to do right now is make all those things part of the item table, those 3 new things we added. So, because as I mentioned before, you can't, if it doesn't exist in the item table, then you can't actually have that thing. And maybe we'll open the starting items too, because we're going to need that, and maybe I'll open the placeables back up just to make sure I get the IDs right. So for our items here, let's just insert a couple rows below is fine. So for the net plot and the sand plot, I'll let you drop it. We're not going to put a stack limit on it. So here's where we set up the drop templates, which I don't know that I've actually made. No, I've not. So we're just going to duplicate those 2 and de-instance them. And we're going to make one more copy of each of them. We'll worry about positioning and making them look good later. So I'm just opening them to make sure they don't have anything we don't need. We don't need this producer group inside of there. The geo folder looks pretty normal. So then we just need to check if they have any, like, yeah, it's got some custom properties on it that we don't need on an icon. So now we just need to make these templates so that we can reference them in our table. So net plot icon, net plot drop, sand plot icon, sand plot drop. It's a 3D icon. It can be equipped. Equipped just means you can hold it in your hand. It's not necessarily like, you know, something that you use to do something the way you do a tool. But if you can hold it in your hand, then you've equipped it. So this is another case where we don't need a custom equipment template for this. So we'll just use the hand look one, or at least I don't think we do. So we'll try using that. I could make you hold this in your hand, but I don't think I will. Because it's a bit weird when there's a hologram of it on the ground and you have a copy of it in your hand. It seems kind of redundant. We don't need to do any details. Okay, so we save that. But then we need a way to actually get these, so for now we'll put it as a starting item. And we'll start them in slot 4 and slot 5. Kind of doubtful that I didn't make any mistakes, but we can go see if this is working or if we need to fix something. If we need to fix something, it's probably going to show up in the next video because too long, too much video. So let's hit play. We will have to hit F1 because we've added something to our hotbar, so we have to sort of start fresh to get the fresh hotbar things. Okay, there you go. You can see 2 icons there that really clearly need to be adjusted. That's good. Let's go to our home. Yeah, we've got a problem. I'm gonna have to figure that out. But problem or no, our placeables work. Oh, well, that's exciting. Also, there should not be a tree here. Gonna have to deal with that. Oh, it's probably loading into the gatherables. All right, the gatherables replicator for this room. So I'll fix that. But yeah, that's exciting. Our little test worked. We got our first placeables in, and that means that in the next video, I can start actually making some producers, so we can start growing some coral. See you in the next video.